Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of MAGA Headline News. My name is Mike, and tonight we have a hot topic for you. We have a story that has been in the news for the last day or so, and it's making the rounds, and it is habeas corpus. And is Trump considering suspending it? Yesterday at Trump's cabinet meeting, there was a reporter who asked Trump the question directly if he was considering suspending habeas corpus because of all of these injunctions by liberal activist judges that are basically preventing Trump from doing his job. Um, I would say causing death, destruction, robberies. I mean, at this point, it's becoming their fault because every day that goes by, American citizens are suffering at the hands of these criminal gang members and illegals that were let into the country by the Democrat Marxist regime under Joe Biden and Barack Obama. And remember, I said that because you will find out in the future that all roads will lead to Obama. Everything you see happening, all roads lead to Obama. Now, while he's not the main mastermind, he's the main puppet that's bringing it into the United States. He's the one in charge of all of this. And when it comes to the auto pen, you're going to find that he had something to do with that too. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the cabinet meeting where President Trump was asked about the suspension of habeas corpus, and let's listen to the exchange between him and that journalist.
You mentioned this last night in your speech in Macomb, but we're facing an unprecedented situation where there's a lot of abuses of nationwide injunctions, sort of seemingly designed to curtail your power, specifically when it comes to deporting these illegal, violent aliens that came in under the previous administration. Have you spoken to your team about ways to mitigate this and continue to deliver for the American people on that?
There are ways to mitigate it, and there's some very strong ways. There's one way that's been used by three very highly respected presidents, but we hope we don't have to go that route. But there is one way that has been used very successfully by three presidents, all highly respected. And hopefully we don't have to go that way, but there are ways of mitigating that. I want to thank you all very much. I thought.
Okay, so you see he cut that short pretty quick, but you could also tell that he has been considering that. And obviously, any president is going to have to explore any and all options to keep the country safe. And what he's talking about is the suspension of habeas corpus. And the three presidents that he's talking about is probably Lincoln, Bush, and FDR. Okay, so a lot of people are new to politics. They, with the political climate that has been heating up over the last few years, it has really brought a lot of people into the political arena. It has brought a lot of young people into the political arena. And a lot of this stuff that people are hearing is all new to them. And for those that don't know what habeas corpus is, I pulled it up on Google and we will read it together. Okay. So habeas corpus, let me just make sure I have stage. Okay. So habeas corpus is a fundamental legal principle and judicial order that ensures someone imprisoned or detained can be brought before a court to determine the legality of their detention. It is essentially a challenge to the lawful authority of a detention. So, in a nutshell, it's saying you can't just be picked up and thrown in jail. You have to have your day in court. You have to be brought before a judge. It is your constitutional right to be brought before a judge to validate your detention. And I think that's a very important part of our government and our system here in America to keep us free. Now, obviously, in times of crisis, it is just not that easy to uphold every part of the Constitution when we are in emergency situations. Okay. Um, there were presidents that did suspend habeas corpus, and those presidents, okay, there are 3 of them. But what I found really funny is when you do Google what presidents did, you will find that all of a sudden, within the last couple of weeks, it used to come up FDR, Abraham Lincoln, and George W. Bush. It no longer says FDR when you Google that anymore. It has been taken off. And I find that really funny because FDR is the hero of the left. Okay. And FDR did something somewhat similar in a way to what President Trump would be considering doing. George Bush was challenged on it because he was suspending habeas corpus for detainees at Guantanamo Bay. And when you read in the Constitution, let me see if I could find that here. Let me pull this up. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so the U.S. Constitution suspension clause in Article 1, Section 9 states the privilege and writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. Okay, it was written in there because it may have to happen someday. It's part of the Constitution. Now, if you look at George Bush's situation, they were not, it was not an invasion or a rebellion. But if you look at FDR, we did have somewhat of an invasion. And what that was, he detained Japanese Americans. Was that the right thing to do at the time? You know, I wasn't alive back then to see the climate, the culture, what was going on, but he did, and he detained all non-American Japanese people in the United States. And that I could totally understand if you have foreigners here from the country that has invaded us at Pearl Harbor and parts of Alaska. Um, so what's interesting is that FDR is not mentioned anymore. And what President Trump is dealing with is rebellion and invasion. And we were invaded by 20 million illegal aliens. And they were brought here by a group of radical Democrats that seized control of the White House and our government through a fraudulent election, all provable. And even if the election, let's just say, let's take that out and say that the election was, straight and narrow. Okay. Either way, this group of people is trying to do this country harm. And I'm talking about the Democrats, the Joe Biden regime, the Obama, all roads lead to Obama. All roads lead to Obama. These people are trying to take our country down. They want Marxism. They want communism, global communism. It is very obvious. Stuff like this should not sound conspiracy theory, or this, it shouldn't sound radical to say anymore with what we have all seen with our own eyes. And I know, honestly, it's pretty hard to process and accept. But when you take a step back and think about everything you are seeing, the illogical things you are seeing, the money that is being stolen, the people that were allowed to come in here unchecked, unvetted, the fact that they are committing these crimes and being supported, and we have left-wing radical judges allowing these people to escape, live in their homes. Something's really wrong here. When you really step back and think about it, there, we have a major problem. And we do have a political party in the United States that is not willing to follow the Constitution or the law anymore. The only time they want the law used is when they have to bring it up against the Republicans, or at this point, MAGA, who is made up of Democrats and Republicans. We are just people that want our country back from the radical Marxist left. Okay. So it's interesting that FDR was never brought up. Okay. So those are the reasons President Trump would have, because it looks to me like we are under invasion and rebellion. And I could probably go on for an hour as to why and bring out a lot of factual evidence that can't even be argued with. Unlike the Democrats that want to defend the indefensible, we actually have facts that we could defend. Okay. Now, what the Democrats are going to say is that the Supreme Court stopped Bush from suspension of habeas corpus. I don't know that they necessarily stopped them. They did do something. I don't think it worked out very well. But like I said, it was different. It was not a rebellion or invasion. President Trump is dealing with rebellion and invasion. And then another thing the left is going to say is that the Constitution does not say who is in charge of suspension of habeas corpus directly. Let me pull this up here. Let me see if this is it here. The U.S. Constitution assigns primary responsibility for handling rebellion or invasion to Congress and the president in conjunction with each other. It doesn't say the court there. So if the Constitution is not clear on who is in charge of suspending habeas corpus, but habeas corpus deals with rebellion and invasion, okay? And the Constitution says that the handling of rebellion and invasion is Congress and the president. It is not the Supreme Court. So I don't believe that the Supreme Court would even have the power to stop President Trump. We are under a dangerous invasion, and Americans are dying every day. And our systems, the fabric of our country, is being torn to shreds right now. And on top of it being used for the illegals, I also believe that it should stay suspended, and the people that are causing these problems, the judges, the people that are directly involved in tearing this country apart and breaking the law, should also be taken in at the same time. And I don't believe that they should be locked up indefinitely with no day in court. But what I believe is that we can prove that the court system, okay, is so compromised because of these judges and what they're doing, and how many people have been installed by the Soros operation, from our judges to the district attorneys all over the place. We are almost under a partial Marxist occupation at this point. All right. If you name a crime or an invasion crime or a coup crime or whatever, it has already been done by the Democrat Party. So what I do believe is that because the court systems are so compromised at this point, how do you, like, people say they want to rest. Okay, you want to rest so bad. I want to rest too. And I say this all the time. Sure. Okay, so you want to arrest them. Let's go arrest Brennan. Let's go arrest Hillary, Obama. Let's perp walk them. Everybody could cheer all they want. But you know what would happen right now? And I'm going to say this again. You'll be so happy. But you know what would happen right now? Those people that just got arrested are going to have their day in court in front of Judge Bosberg, or one of these other federal judges that is trying to stop Trump from running the country. This is why it needs to be cleaned up first. And if it can't be cleaned up, then I believe Trump does have, I think Trump is justified in the suspension of habeas corpus if it can't be cleaned up properly. We are in so much danger in this country that if you do start arresting people, if you arrest you know, we have so many people under so much heavy propaganda and so brainwashed that there's chances you could have an illegal from one of these gangs murder an American citizen, a child even. And I believe that all you would need is one of these radical Democrat voters on a jury, and the gang member would go free. That is how insane the climate and political climate and the propaganda have gotten. So I'm going to say this. I believe that it should all be tried by military tribunal for most of these people. Okay. Um, Top crimes, the crimes against the government, the Crossfire Hurricane, spying on the president, all of this stuff, all of Clinton's crimes, all of the Frazzle Drip and the Fast and Furious with Obama. You have the Uranium One. You have the email scandal. This stuff I do not believe should be tried by jury because it's political and people are going to take sides. This should be done all in military courts the same way they did the Nazis. And when you look at the amount of people that the Democrats have killed between C-19 and God knows what other events they have caused. And, I talk like this, but eventually this all will come out. It's already out if you look for it. Factual documents. But eventually this will be mainstream. Okay. And you will see that it is very possible that the Democrat Party in America has caused as many deaths as the Nazis. Just add them up. And the propaganda that the Nazi citizens were under in that time, it took a good 10 to 15 years to wake the Nazi citizens up from that propaganda. And the propaganda that our citizens, these Democrat voters, these low functioning, low IQ Democrat voters, and then a lot of the older generation that has so much trust in the mainstream media their whole lives that don't really use the internet as much as others. Okay. That propaganda, this is high technology propaganda studied for years after the propaganda of the 1940s, combined with technology of today. I don't know if many people ever will wake up if they haven't yet. I mean, the Democrat Party has been able to literally convince people to dress up like cats, dogs, dragons, convince them they're sexually attracted to machines, robots, uh, you know, the using litter boxes in schools. These are human beings that have now been had their entire minds compromised by high technology, um, sophisticated propaganda. And there are people out there that are just not intelligent enough to fight that off. And when you look and you see these men in the street wearing dresses and, there's something wrong. And we're being told by the mainstream media to worship these people, worship their beliefs, worship their hatred for America. I mean, this is completely nuts what's going on. If this stuff cannot be cleaned up by the courts, if we cannot make valid arrests, if President Trump is not allowed to do his job, if the midterms are being cheated, if there is another event, if another pandemic is released on us, yes, President Trump needs to do what he has to do and suspend habeas corpus. And it is time to round everybody up and end this once and for all, because our country cannot take much more. We have one chance at this. We are never going to get another President Trump. It's never going to happen. As long as our country survives, this guy's going to go down in history just like Washington, if not better. The tariffs are being lied about. The economy is being lied about. It's all being lied about. If you're somebody that doesn't believe what I'm saying, just ask. because I could show you the proof. Anybody that has done any bit of research on this can show you the proof. All right. We are transitioning to a new system, and it's not a new system. It's actually the system that built America up to be the superpower that it was or is today. What we're getting off of is the corrupt globalist system and the Federal Reserve system that the left, the Marxists, placed us on years ago. Okay. And the first person to try to fight that off was Kennedy, and they killed him. Then Reagan tried, they shot him. Trump is doing it, and you see what they're putting him through. You got to take a 40,000-foot view of all of this, take into account what's going on. Do not listen to the mainstream media about Trump and people not supporting Trump. He's still loved by every single person, if not more. And we need to support him with everything we have. And let's not forget, we elected him to do this job. Just because we're a lot more comfortable with him in office right now, I want you to think about what would happen. These people will come back, and they're not going to stop. The judges aren't going to stop. The Democrats are not going to stop. If they get back into power, these people will take this country down, and anybody that loves America will suffer for it. Trump has to obliterate the deep state. He has to, and he knows it. And if he does it, he knows what will happen to his family afterwards. There are no plans for the survival of this evil regime that has done this to us, this criminal evil regime that has done this to us. It's all or nothing. So we need to get behind President Trump with everything we have. Do not believe the propaganda and the lies of the left. It is all a house of cards. Their people are all paid. Yes, they have a strong bullhorn with the mainstream media. They do have power to make things happen, bad things happen. But it's here. This is, I don't know if you want to call this the second American Civil War, but it's here. It's at your doorstep, and it's not going away. It's not going away. If we do not win this, if Trump does not win this, if we are not allowed to take our country back, these people will come back with a vengeance. And believe me, you don't want to see that day, because they will not stop. I want you to imagine people like Stacey Abrams or AOC or Maxine Waters or Hillary Clinton with unchecked power. And when I mean unchecked power, I mean power like a dictator has. And then I want you to think about what those people would probably do to American citizens with zero constitution, zero rights. President Trump, I trust him. If anybody's going to mop this up, he needs to. I trust him a lot more with the suspension of habeas corpus than these Marxist Democrats with unchecked power. And that's what will happen if they're allowed to come back. The economy will come back. It will grow. We are going back on. You're going to start seeing President Trump's plan work, okay? It's going to be a bumpy switchover. Eventually, you're going to see us back on the gold standard. You're going to see tariffs paying for just about everything. And you're going to see what America is really capable of when we aren't being held back, when we aren't being robbed, when we aren't being destroyed by these Marxist liberal agendas. You're going to see what America could have really been all these years. Every single person in this country would be super wealthy. There would be no homelessness. There would be no affordable housing. Everybody would be healthy, happy. But when everything comes out with the food, with Big Pharma, with the stolen money, USAID, when that is put together properly, proven in courts of law, you're not going to believe. People that even understand it now, you're not, even I will not believe, we will not believe the level of what was happening to our country. So guys, listen, that wraps it up for tonight. Habeas corpus, Trump, if you got to suspend it, do it, mop it up. Guys, we need to support President Trump. He's all we have. All right? Support President Trump. Okay, guys, my name's Mike. This is MAGA Headline News for tonight, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your night. We will see you again soon. Thanks, guys.